In the winter of 1992, a group of DC Comics writers with senior editor Mike Carlin at the helm launched a very ambitious and really to that time unprecedented storyline in the Superman family of comic books. This story hits its crescendo in January of 93 with Superman issue number 75 by Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding. Up to this point in the story, this alien unbeatable force known as Doomsday has run through the Justice League like a buzzsaw, as well as other Superman allies and Superman family-related characters, forcing the Man of Steel to face Doomsday alone. Leading up to the publication of Superman 75, DC shipped somewhere around 5 million copies of the book in advance. I believe they sent about 2 or 3 million of those the day of release, and the book still managed to sell out in the vast majority of comic shops all over the United States. I believe the final number was somewhere around 6 million copies. Anyway, after the two engaged in a massive epic fight in the middle of downtown Metropolis, the Man of Steel was felled. The unprecedented media coverage and fervor over the storyline kind of obscured the fact that in reality, Superman 75 is almost like the middle of the Death of Superman story. Not surprisingly, your usual suspects, your NPRs, your CNNs, your New York Posts, et cetera, went into a frenzy over the killing of a cultural icon and the ramifications and the crying children and all that fun stuff. But in reality, this was just one major step. It's a huge step, but just one step in a much larger, pretty fascinating story. Following the ending of Superman 75, we went into a sort of intermission period in the World Without a Superman story, Funeral for a Friend, and then we went headlong into the Reign of Superman story, which is where we had 4 possible returning Supermans, each claiming to be the real deal. But if you've read the story, or if you're my age or played the 94 video game, you would know none of them were the real deal of steel. That would be this one here. Kal-El, the only Superman, makes his return in his Krypton recovery suit. The battle with Doomsday badly depleted his energy levels and would left him in a state that was pretty much clinically dead to Earth science. But as a Kryptonian, and with Kryptonian science behind it, it was more like a deep coma. And although he returned to life, he was greatly diminished in power as he was still recovering, and so he outfitted himself with Kryptonian weaponry from the Fortress of Solitude to help him basically reclaim his mantle and join the good Reign of Superman characters, Steel and Superboy, and also Green Lantern, against the evil cyborg Superman Hank Henshaw. Let's take a closer look at the recovery suit Superman in a bit of detail here. Here he is with the bandolier on, and this bandolier is actually a full one piece that's combined with a shoulder harness, so you can remove the entire thing in one if you want to have him just to the base recovery suit. The bandolier has little links in it, kind of like tank treads. It's actually a lot more thought out than I was expecting. He has a thigh drop holster on the right side with the little Kryptonian blaster you see here that fits in there. It fits the holster well. It's a little wobbly, so watch out for, dropping that and losing it forever and ever. And then on the left side, he's got a little bandolier. This is the Kryptonite pulse rifle with supposedly a removable magazine. He comes with a spare one, but I could not get this thing out of there for shit on camera. Still, this is an awesome looking little rifle. I think that, the pistol rifle combo are great. I wouldn't mind having a few more Kryptonian weapons, though, just for funsies. When it comes to articulation, if you have the Man of Steel edition, you are looking at essentially the same points of articulation. The only thing I couldn't remember, without going back and looking real quick, is this version does not have a butterfly joint. And now I can't remember if the Man of Steel version did. I don't think he did either. Actually, I just went and confirmed that. Yeah, so neither of those versions have butterfly joints, so that's not really a change. The neoprene kind of material of the recovery suit, it has obviously kind of a wetsuit look and feel and kind of sheen to it. It doesn't really limit articulation, other than like at the high points on the shoulder. Otherwise, it feels just as easy to use as the original. I love this S-shield, though. I wish we had something like that for the Man of Steel version. But anyway, the only other change you're going to run into here is when you get down to the feet, because the feet are actually removable because he has his flight assist, his rocket boots on here. You can pop these guys off and take this piece off the shin and just put like the little footy pajama black shoes on to have just that base recovery suit look. If you have trouble with these, hit them with just a little bit of heat. It helps them pop in place. Here he is with the Man of Steel Edition Superman, and despite the appearance here, I don't think there's a difference in height. I think it's, well, the boots may be slightly different just because he's got the rocket boots on. I think they may sit just a teeny bit higher, but otherwise they are obviously, as they should be, comparable in size. Again, that embossed shield on the recovery suit makes me wish that was an option for the Man of Steel factory, but hey, it's still a great looking figure. So here he is with the Mafex Steel, my custom Supreme Knight vs. Superman, and of course Man of Steel edition once again. And you know, it's funny, I have them separated here, and while Man of Steel is slightly forward, they look a lot more same height in this picture for whatever reason. And while I'm certainly hopeful that Mezco does some more Reign of Superman, I think it's this Mafex Steel and recovery suit combo. I think this is what really makes me happy about getting this figure. These two look great together. Obviously, I'd love to see Mezco take a stab at Steel, but especially Superboy and Cyborg Superman, because I don't think anybody else is going to make one that's satisfactory to me like these are. One of my fondest memories of this series was the 94, I think, Sunsoft Superman video game that featured these characters. And I think it was that point I realized just how vibrant these designs really are, because they translate it so great to a video game. Here are the rocket effects for his rocket boots. As you see, they just plug into the bottom of the foot peg. And I think these are new pieces. I don't think they've been used anywhere else, but they're nice enough. And here he is without the rocket boots on, so you can see the flush, just standard recovery suit. And I think this is a fun inclusion just so you could display him in your preferred look. And again, it's fun to see a very comic accurate representation of this, especially from Mezco, who doesn't always go 100% comic accurate. This is about as close as it gets. And in what I hope is a sort of sneak preview accessory, here is the Cyborg Superman head removed in his optional right hand. There's no way you can't look at this piece and tell me they wouldn't just absolutely nail the shit out of a Cyborg Superman figure in 112. Actually, that starts me down a rabbit hole of 90s comics DC stuff they could do. Maybe we'll save that for another video. He does come with a few head options as well, this one being a bearded and long-haired version, which is probably the more accurate way he should look coming just out of stasis. Then we have the short-haired look, which is the Convergence look, the Superman and Lois book that ran during that time. That was he's the pre-52 Superman, I think. That was a weird time in those comics, wasn't it? But it's a great look. All he needs is a belt, and you can replicate that pretty well. And of course, we have a bearded, long-haired yelling head for when he goes Kryptonian guns a-blazing, because why the hell not? So it's pretty sweet to have not just one, but two Black Suit Supermans in 112 Collective in, what, about a year's time? And it was funny because I think, like many people, when we got the Snyderverse one, I was like, oh, okay, well, I gotta sit down and figure out what parts I need to make a recovery suit version. And then, literally a week later, this guy went up for pre-order, so I was like, oh, well, bag that. And truthfully, I've always been a fan of the black suit with Superman as kind of an occasional treat. It's sort of like I feel with the symbiote suit for Spider-Man. It's a great thing to punctuate certain stories and certain moments, but, it's always nice to have him go back to the original suit eventually. But as an optional costume, it's absolutely badass. In canon, the reason for the recovery suit was because black obviously absorbs more sunlight than any other color, so it helped him recover more quickly. But in a thematic sense, it always kind of evokes this, okay, Clark's getting down to serious business. Something dramatic has happened, and he's had to bust out the recovery suit because of a situation, and it's getting ugly kind of thing. But ugly is one thing this figure sure as hell ain't. So, I absolutely recommend this one to anybody who was even a casual 90s Superman fan. And you need to pick it up and fire up your Super Nintendo or your Sega Genesis and play that Death and Return of Superman game and keep him on the couch next to you, because that's what I'm going to do when I finish this review, as a matter of fact. And what seems to be a running theme of my reviews of late, I am hopeful this means we can get some more Return of Superman figures, because, again, Cyborg Superman is an absolute must. But I'd love to see their take on Superboy and see how they could do on a Steel, too. They might be able to do something innovative and cool that might put the old Mafex one here to shame. In the meantime, as always, I would like to thank Mezco Toys for helping me get a hand on one of these to review for you, and to thank you as well for coming through to watch said review. And we will talk again soon. Thank you very much.